I think you come to the Belgian to win it. Wabash always fight.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And Coach, one game under our belts now for the 2019 season. Certainly didn't end the way you had hoped it would, a 31-28 loss for the Little Giants, but against a very good Wisconsin Stevens Point football team that had a game under its belt already. Take me through a little bit of that game.
Well, we are not used to losing around here, so it's miserable the way it should be, and I'm excited to relive it with you for the next 20 minutes. But bright spots, it was a game of unknowns. Started a freshman quarterback. That turned out to work out all right. The return of Ike James. We played 4 wide receivers who'd never started a game. We were down a couple starters on defense. All that being said, if I had to take the game again, I would. That was a good, tough, physical, non-conference football game. I don't think you get anything out of beating somebody 58-0 or scheduling a cupcake. And our team got better too. So the real issue is, can we move from game 1 to game 2 and make the jumps? And I certainly thought Stevens Point made a huge jump from their game versus John Carroll to us. But challenging road trip, physical football team, all that I believe is going to help our squad in the 2019 season.
And another challenging road trip ahead that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and look at the highlights for the Little Giants from last weekend's game at Wisconsin Stevens Point. You mentioned the return of Ike James. 100-yard game for Ike last week. He had 24 carries for 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, including that go-ahead touchdown on a great 41-yard run that we'll see here in just a minute. I mean, how good was it to A, have him back, and B, be able to carry that type of workload in a game like that?
We did not plan on him having that workload because of other injuries. He had to go the distance, certainly wanted to do it, and clearly had shown he's come back from a knee surgery and is back in mid-season form.
You mentioned starting a freshman quarterback. The first time a freshman has walked out to take the opening snap in the opening game for Wabash since Jake Knott did it in 1999. Liam Thompson afforded himself very well. He was 16 of 31 passing for 151 yards. He added another 32 yards rushing on 5 carries. He had a 22-yard touchdown. Check that. He had 61 yards on 12 carries, including a 22-yard touchdown run for the opening score of the season for the Little Giants. Evaluate his performance last Saturday.
Well, he made some opening game freshman quarterback mistakes. We took that into account going into the game. But overall, we're really pleased, and we just see tremendous upside with him over the next 4 years, and then we're confident in his backup, too, being ready to play if he had to.
You mentioned a young receiving corps. It was led by Devin Anderson with 6 receptions for 45 yards in his first start. Cooper Sullivan, a freshman, had 3 catches for 55 yards. Nick Hammond, who has seen some spot duty for Wabash over his career heading into Saturday's game, he caught 3 passes for 21 yards. And Sam Marksberry came into the game and had a reception for 16 yards. How has this young wide receiving corps come together, getting ready for that first game and now getting ready to face Allegheny this weekend?
Well, for all of them except Cooper, they have waited 2-3 years to get on the field, and they are making the most out of their chances right now. It's very competitive at our wide receiver spot.
Little Giants were led defensively by Jared Bertram. He had 12 tackles on the day. Brandon Yagi had 8 tackles as well. You were able to get some tackles for loss, 5 total in the game, but you weren't able to get as much pressure on the quarterback as I think you were hoping to. That was a really talented and really big offensive line that your defense faced on Saturday.
It was, and we made some first game mistakes. The double reverse flea flicker pass for a touchdown. The offense, the Wabash offense, didn't do the defense any favor. We had one turnover in the game, and that led to a touchdown on a short field. So two of their scores, one comes on a trick play, one comes off a turnover. These were things, we talked about it last week. We were hoping to avoid turnovers and then giving up the big play. We, on both sides of the ball, we looked better in the second half, like we had caught up to the game. And again, hopefully that'll continue this week.
You had a fantastic drive on the next to the last possession offensively in the game with that young group. What do you take out of that as a coach, that they were able to come together the way they did and mount that long drive to end with the 41-yard Ike James touchdown run? And I have to ask, you don't ever look for excuses, I know, but not having a working scoreboard clock, how much did that affect things in the second half of that football game? Because perfect example, that final drive makes clock management almost impossible, trying to run some time down to make sure you don't give a lot of time to the opposing team.
Clearly a commentary on the state of Wisconsin employment situation. What a mess. And there are no excuses, but there were times in the second half you didn't know if there were 3 minutes left, if there was a minute left. The officials were doing the best they could, but that is, I hope to never have to do that one again. To play without a clock the entire second half was difficult for both teams. But in the end, looking at the film, I think I would have called plays way different if I could see how much time actually was left there.
What was it, back to before we got sidetracked on the scoreboard issue? What do you think, having seen it now on film, also seeing it obviously live, about the performance of your team on that final offensive drive to take the lead in the game? I mean, for as many young guys as you have out there, you do have some good veterans as well, but to be able to mount that type of offensive drive late in the ballgame was really impressive.
Giant catches. Cooper Sullivan had one. Sam Marksberry had another. We hit a big play with Ike James. Everybody, I think, contributed, and a freshman quarterback playing. Those are all good things, but now we're into conference play, and the moral victories are over. We need to play well to beat our upcoming opponent.
Well, we'll start that transition. How has this team bounced off of the loss on Saturday and the long trip home to get ready to make another long trip as the Little Giants get set to take on Allegheny, as you mentioned, the beginning of North Coast Athletic Conference play? And really, you've only got one game under your belt, but it's the start of the second season for the Little Giants.
It is. Looked at the game film and on Sunday, and we put that thing to bed. Monday we had a good practice. Yesterday we had a really good practice. We'll go out later today, and the signs of great teams, how they consistently practice, especially after a loss. So hopefully today will be better. Yesterday, Tuesday, was a really good practice. Hopefully today will be better.
You face an Allegheny team that has a lot of talent. Naz Greer comes in leading the conference after one game for the Gators, a couple of games for a few conference schools. He leads the conference with 318 passing yards in their opening ball game, a loss to RPI on the road in Troy, New York. Offensively, though, they were able to do some really good things behind Naz Greer, and of course they have one of the most excitable players to watch in Alex Victor, who is just a very talented wide receiver and is a threat to break a play at any time on offense.
Well, just to make my week even better, we play Allegheny. Alex Victor, I think, is the best offensive player in the conference consistently over the last 3 years. I'm glad we have one more Saturday with him. Naz is a really good quarterback, active in the pocket. He's taken full advantage of being the starting quarterback this year. Then they have some other weapons too. They're talented and big in the wide receiving group, and they have the ability to score points. I was really impressed. They have Coach Nagy and new leadership there. They were pretty organized for their first game.
You mentioned a couple of big receivers similar to what you faced last Saturday against Stevens Point. Bacik, I believe, comes in at about 6'5". They have another 6'3", 6'4" receiver. So that kind of counters the speed and quickness of the smaller Victor. So they've got a couple of different ways they can really hit you in the passing game.
They do, and our defense has got to be prepared. I know they've worked really hard at getting the mistakes they made cleaned up from last week, and we expect a solid performance defensively Saturday.
Another player you have to prepare for on the opposite side of the ball. He was the Special Teams Player of the Year in the conference last year, but he's also an incredibly talented linebacker, and that's Chase Bala, who we were talking yesterday at practice. Feels like he's getting ready for his 15th season. You know, he signed multiple contracts with the Gators, but much like Brock Heffron for us and Artie Akiwa for us, you just feel like he's been there making great plays forever.
Really talented outside linebacker first, and then he is the kickoff returner too. So with he and Alex Victor back there, they are very good at what they do in the special teams. And again, we're going to have to play well. I thought we played well Saturday on special teams, but we're going to have to up the game this Saturday.
They really have a lot of different talented players at linebacker. They had one of their, the weak side linebacker led them in tackles in the game against RPI. Really seem to have good speed and react well at that position. The defensive line does a good job of clearing out spaces for those linebackers to come in and make plays.
No, they're good players. I know B.J. Hammer recruited them, and the two inside backers and Bala have been together a long time, and they're good football players.
What do you have to do? This is a team that with their talent on defense, they did give up 502 yards of total offense against RPI. RPI was able to hit some big plays against them. They were able to turn that into a lopsided victory. RPI scored over 50 points. What do you have to do to try and attack their defense on Saturday?
That game, when you look at it, was much closer than it ended up, and RPI hit kind of a flea flicker pass too for a cheap touchdown. But I think our story all year is going to be we need to limit the turnovers, consistently run the ball, and then not give up big plays on defense and make people work down the field to score.
You mentioned special teams a little earlier. We talked last week in kind of the preview of the overall season, in addition to the preview of the Stevens Point game, that special teams were going to be a focus. I thought your special teams performed extremely well. Joey Ane was very good in the punting game. Jacob Handley hit all 4 of his extra point attempts. The one time Skylar Narrig came out on the field to attempt a field goal, you ended up getting a roughing the kicker penalty that kept a drive alive and then led to an Ike James 1-yard touchdown run. So really seemed that you were able to execute in that, in all facets.
That was probably the best game 1 special teams performance since I've been the head coach.
Back-to-back long road trips, what type of effect does that have, if any, on the football team?
Right now, I don't think it does because it's so fresh, and we're ready to jump on a bus, especially after a loss, and go out and try and win a game. The payoff comes later in the season when we're not taking a long road trip in October or November.
It seems like years ago, really, wrote the story on the website that you're the favorite to win the North Coast Athletic Conference. I think I know the answer to this, but do the coaches and players think about that at all, or are they just ready to get on the field and get a win Saturday and then worry about next week's opponent on Sunday when they get back?
Oh, you just, in this league right now, I think every team is capable of scoring points. So it is, and this isn't a cliche, it's one game at a time. We're playing Allegheny. We did this last year too, where people are looking ahead to other games or this game. 2 years ago, we went to Allegheny and we beat them 48-41 in a last team with the ball wins the game. We wish not to relive that, and to do that, we are gonna have to play our best on both sides of the ball, and it's going to be that way every Saturday for the next 9 weeks.
Well, that game begins at 1 o'clock on Saturday in Meadville, Pennsylvania at Frank B. Fuhrer Field. There will be live stream and live video links on the Wabash College website where you can view that action. We'll also have the game for you on the radio at 91.3 FM, WNDY, Crawfordsville, the Wabash College radio station, and a link to that audio stream is also available on the Wabash College website. Again, kickoff is at 1 o'clock. If you can't make the 8-hour trip to Meadville, Pennsylvania and join us there, then we hope to see you 1 week from this Saturday when the Little Giants finally open the home portion of the season. It will be homecoming against Denison University. That kickoff is at 2 o'clock. You can plan now to get your tickets if you go to wabashtickets.com. You can get tickets not only for the game, but for tailgating spots. You heard Matt Tanny last week on the radio broadcast mentioning it will be kind of Monon Bell light. So go to that website, wabashtickets.com. Check out your ticketing options, both for tailgating spots, for parking, for Wallies in the end zone, a new special area to watch the game if you're 21 or older, and you can learn more about that. Or you can just pick up tickets for the game and make sure you join us next weekend at Howlett Little Giant Stadium. Till then, Coach, we'll be on the road Friday afternoon to get ready to go to Allegheny. Best of luck in this weekend's game.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you next week.
I think you come to the Belgian to win it. Wabash always fight.